Hello, this is Abby from OllieHolly.com. In today's video, I will be showing you how to crochet these cute little hot cocoa ornaments. These ornaments work up really quickly and make great last-minute gifts. They're also really customizable. If you would like to follow along with a written pattern, you'll find the pattern on my site. The link to the blog post is in the description box down below. If you are completely new to crochet, I highly recommend you watch my Crochet for Absolute Beginners and Amigurumi Basics for Beginners video before proceeding with this one. I will try to go slow in this video for the first few rounds, but you will have a much easier time following along with this video if you follow along with those videos first. The beginners playlist will be linked in the description box down below. Here are the materials I will be using in this video. I'm using Paintbox yarns, cotton, and Aran weight. The original pattern called for sport weight yarn, but I chose to use Aran weight to make the stitches easier to see in this video. If you like smaller ornaments, I recommend using sport weight yarn paired with a 2.75mm crochet hook. You'll need a main color for your mug, a trim color, and some brown or light brown color for the cocoa. I'm also using Knit Picks Tough Puff yarn in white. Any bulky white yarn will do, but if you do not have bulky white yarn on hand, you can also substitute it with some wool roving instead. To pair with the Aran weight yarn, I'm using a 3.25mm crochet hook. I'm doing the X stitch in this tutorial, so if you're working the standard single crochet, I recommend going down a hook size. I'll also be using a pair of scissors, some cardboard, a pencil, polyfill stuffing, a large darning needle, a small darning needle, and a stitch marker. This is optional. To decorate my ornaments with, I'm also going to be using some beads, embroidery floss, and I actually only use the white floss for my ornaments, but I really like these metallic ones too. An embroidery needle, felt, and tacky glue to glue the felt with. These items are all completely optional. The first piece we will be working on is the cocoa that's sitting inside the mug. I recommend using a darker brown yarn for this if you're making this ornament at home. But to make it easier to see in this tutorial, I'm going to be using this lighter brown yarn. To start, work 6 single crochet into a magic circle. Here's how I like to make my magic circle. I'm going to hold the tail end of the yarn in my hand, like so, with the tail pointing downwards. I'm going to hold the yarn tail down with my left thumb here, then wrap the working end, which is the end that is attached to the ball of yarn here, around my index and middle finger. Then I'm going to bring the working end back to the front and cross it over on top of the tail end to form an X, then straight down the back of my hand. And to secure the working end, I'm sandwiching it between my ring finger here and my pinky. This is what the yarn should look like on your fingers. With the back of my hand facing me, I'm inserting my hook with the hook side down under the right strand and over the left. I'm pulling the left strand under the right, then turning the hook up towards me to create a loop on my hook. And finally, I'm going to insert my hook under my working end here to yarn over. I'm going to draw a loop up through the loop on my hook. This is how I like to make my magic circle. Now that we have our magic circle, let's work 6 single crochet stitches into it. To make the yarn under a single crochet stitch, I'm going to insert my hook into the circle, making sure to go under both the circle and the tail end of the yarn. So I'm inserting my hook into the circle, then I'm going to yarn under. So what that means is I'm going to wrap the working end of the yarn from the front to the back instead of from the back to the front. So I'm yarning under, front to back, and drawing a loop up. I now have 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over, so that means wrapping the yarn from the back to the front. I'm going to draw it through the 2 loops on my hook. So that's 1 single crochet, and we need to work 5 more into the magic circle. So I'm going to insert my hook into the circle one more time. I'm going to yarn under, so I'm wrapping the yarn from the front to the back to draw a loop up. There are 2 loops on my hook. And now I'm going to yarn over, so that's back to front. I'm going to draw it through the 2 loops on my hook. So that's 2 single crochet. Insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over, and drawing it through the 2. So for my 4th stitch, I'm going to insert my hook into the circle, yarn under, so remember that's wrapping from the front to the back to draw a loop up. Then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to draw it through the 2 loops. Again, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, then yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops on your hook. Now for our final stitch of the round, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over, and draw it through the 2 loops on your hook. To check your stitches, just look for these V's at the top of each stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now that I have all 6 of my stitches, I'm going to pull on the tail end of the magic circle to close this circle up. For round 2, I'm going to be increasing into each stitch from the previous round to double my stitch count. So to increase, all you have to do is work 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch from round 1. So this is my first stitch from round 1, and you can see the V shape here, right there. I'm going to insert my hook underneath both legs of the V. Then just like before, I'm going to yarn under to draw a loop up, then yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops on my hook. And because for Amigurumi we do not join at the end of each round, I'm actually going to place a stitch marker on my first stitch here just to help me keep track of where the beginning of my round is. To increase, I'm going to insert my hook into the same stitch that I worked my first stitch of the round into. So that's this space right here. I'm going to yarn under to draw a loop up, then yarn over, and I'm drawing it through the 2 loops on my hook. So now we have 2 stitches coming out of 1 stitch. Now I'm just going to continue increasing into each stitch for the rest of this round. So into my 2nd stitch, I'm going to work a single crochet. So insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over, and draw it through the 2 loops. Then back into that same space, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, then yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops. So into our 3rd stitch, we're going to increase again. So insert, yarn under to draw your loop up, yarn over, and draw it through the 2 loops. Then back into the same space, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, then yarn over and draw through the 2 loops. So now we have 3 increase stitches. Into our 4th, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops. Back into the same space, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops. For our 5th stitch, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops. Into the same space, insert, yarn under to draw a loop up, yarn over, draw it through the 2 loops. And into the final stitch of the round, we're going to work our final increase. So that's 1 and 2. So by the end of round 2, you should have a total of 12 stitches. For round 3, we're going to be working 1 single crochet into the 1st stitch, then increase in the next. And then we're going to just repeat working that all the way around. So that's 1 increase, 1 increase, 1 increase until you get to the end. So into my 1st stitch, I'm going to work 1 single crochet. And just like before, I'm going to mark this 1st stitch to keep track of where the beginning of my round is. Then into the 2nd stitch here, we're going to work an increase. So just a reminder, increasing means you're working 2 single crochet into 1 stitch. So now we just have to alternate between working 1 single crochet and increasing. So 1, then increase. 1, increase. 1, increase. 1, increase. And this is our final set, so 1, increase. You should have a total stitch count of 18 by the time you are done with round 3. In round 4, we will start off by working 1 single crochet into the 1st stitch, then increase in the 2nd stitch here. And then we're going to alternate between working 2 single crochet, then increasing in the next, repeating that all the way around. So what that looks like is 1, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase. Then repeating that all the way till the end. And in that final stitch, we're just going to work 1 single crochet. So 1, increase, then 1, 2, increase. So 1, 2, increase. 1, 2, increase. 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, then 1, 2, increase, then into our final stitch we're just going to work 1 single crochet right there. By the time you are done with this round, you should have a total of 24 stitches. In round 5, I'm going to alternate between working 3 single crochet then increasing, repeating that all the way around. So that's 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, repeating that all the way around. So for our first stitch, 1, 2, 3, increase, then 1, 2, 3, increase. Pause here to continue working the rest of round 5, and I will meet you at the beginning of round 6. By the time you are done with round 5, you should have a total of 30 stitches. In round 6, we're going to start off by working 2 single crochet, then increasing. Then we're going to repeat the following: 4 single crochet, then increasing, repeating that all the way around until the final 2 stitches, where we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch. So what that looks like is 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, repeating that all the way around, then 1, 2 for the final 2 stitches. So 1, 2, increase, then 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Then we're just going to repeat that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Pause here to continue alternating between 4 single crochet and increasing all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. So now into the final 2 stitches, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch. So that's 1 and 2. By the time you are done with round 6, you should have a total of 36 stitches. Now that we are done with the cocoa piece, we can fasten off. So I'm removing my stitch marker, and I'm going to cut the working end of the yarn here and pull my hook up to fasten off. Then I'm going to work the seamless join in the round to make this edge a little bit smoother, because as you can see, there's a step right here. So to do so, I'm just going to thread my yarn tail onto a darning needle. Then I'm just going to locate the second stitch of the round. So that's 1, 2. I'm going to pass my needle through from front to back underneath both legs of this stitch. Pull tight. Then I'm going to locate the final stitch and insert my needle through the center of the stitch and out the back. Then pull tight and adjust the false stitch that we just made to make the seam a little bit smoother. Then just weave that tail into the back of the piece. Now take your cardboard and your pencil and trace the circle onto the cardboard. Then cut out the circle. Make sure to cut the circle a little bit smaller than what you've traced. Set this piece of cardboard aside, we're going to be using it later. Before we continue on to crocheting the rest of the mug, let's sew in the marshmallow details on the cocoa piece. Thread your bulky yarn onto a large darning needle and sew a couple of short puffy lines onto the cocoa. Make sure that the exposed yarn tails are only exposed on the wrong side of the cocoa piece. So pull almost all the way through, but leave a short tail so that we can tie it off later on. So just sew a few short lines randomly scattered on the hot cocoa piece. When you're done, just tie off the exposed ends on the wrong side of the piece. Snip off the excess tail and set this piece aside for later. In the next part, we're going to be working the mug itself. Rounds 1 to 5 of the mug is worked exactly the same as the cocoa. I'll be going through this part a little quicker than I did for the cocoa, so if you're struggling a little bit with the speed, you can always go back to rewatch that part. Timestamps are in the description box down below. In round 1 of the mug, we're going to be working 6 single crochet stitches into a magic circle. Just like before, I'm holding the yarn tail down with my thumb. Then I'm going to wrap the working end around my middle and index fingers, crossing over the yarn tail and down the back. I'm inserting my hook under the right strand and over the left. Pull the left strand under the right strand, then I'm turning the hook up towards me to create a loop on my hook. I'm then going to yarn over and pull a loop through the existing loop on my hook. And now I'm going to work 6 single crochets into this magic circle. So I'm inserting my hook into the circle, yarn under to draw a loop up, and I'm yarning over to draw it through the 2 loops for 1 stitch. Now 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm just going to pull on the yarn tail from the magic circle to close up the hole in the center. For round 2 of the mug, we're going to increase into each stitch from the previous round. So into our first stitch here, going to work an increase, and just a reminder, increasing is just working 2 single crochet into the same stitch. So that's 1 increase, 2 increase, 3 our third increase, fourth increase, fifth increase, and our final increase of the round. You should have a total of 12 stitches by the time you are done with this round. In round 3, we're going to alternate between working one single crochet and increasing, repeating that all the way around. So 1, increase, then 1, increase. Pause here to continue alternating between working one single crochet and increasing for the rest of this round, and I will meet you at the beginning of round 4. In round 4, we're going to start off by working one single crochet, then increasing in the next. Then we're going to alternate between working 2 single crochet and increasing, repeating that all the way around. So what that looks like is 1, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, and repeating that all the way around until you get to the end where you work one single crochet. So that's 1, increase, 1, 2, increase. Then 1, 2, increase. Pause here to continue working the rest of this round, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Then into that final stitch, we're just going to work one single crochet. By the time you are done with this round, you should have a total of 24 stitches. In round 5, we're going to alternate between working 3 single crochet and increasing, repeating that all the way around. So that's 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, and we're just going to repeat that. So this is 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase. Pause here to work the rest of round 5, and I will meet you at the beginning of round 6. By the time you're done with round 5, you should have a total of 30 stitches. In round 6 of the mug, we're going to start off by working 2 single crochet, then increasing. So that's 1, 2, then increase. And then we're going to alternate between working 4 single crochet, then increasing. And we're going to repeat that all the way around until we get to the final 2 stitches here. Then into the second to the last stitch, we're going to work a single crochet, and into the final stitch, we're going to work a slip stitch. That's 1, 2, increase, then we're working 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Then we're just going to repeat working 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Pause here to work the rest of this round, and I'll meet you at the second to the last stitch. Then for our final 2 stitches, I'm just going to work a single crochet into that second to the last stitch, and then into the final stitch I'm going to work a slip stitch. So I'm just inserting my hook into the stitch, yarn over, and I'm drawing it through the stitch and also through the loop on my hook. In round 7 of the mug, we're going to work into the back loops only of each stitch. For this round, we're working 1 single crochet into each stitch without any increasing. Each stitch, when you look at it from the top, is made up of 2 legs to form a sort of V shape. To work into the back loops only, insert your hook into the center of the V and out the back. Then just work your single crochet as you normally would. So that's our first stitch. Then into the second stitch, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to insert our hook into the center of the stitch and out the back. Then I'm just going to work my single crochet. Into the next stitch, we're doing the same. Insert into the center of the stitch and out the back. Pause here to continue working the rest of this round, and I'll meet you at the beginning of the next round. When you're done with round 7, you'll see that the unworked front loops from round 7 form a nice edge for the bottom of the mug. Next, for rounds 8 to 13, so that's a total of 6 rounds, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around for each round. For this round, we're just going to work into the stitch as we normally would. So we're going to insert our hook into the stitch, making sure to go under both legs of the V. Then we're going to work our single crochet as usual. Pause here to work rounds 8 to 13, and I'll meet you at the beginning of round 14. This is what your piece should look like when you're done rounds 8 to 13. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Place the cardboard circle into the bottom of the mug. You can also glue it down to keep the cardboard from shifting. In round 14, we're going to be working through both the mug piece and the cocoa piece. So to do so, I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch of my mug first. Then I'm going to just insert my hook into any stitch on the cocoa piece. Then I'm just going to work my single crochet as I normally would. So I'm yarning under, then I'm going to draw it through both of those stitches there. Then yarn over, and I'm drawing it through the 2 loops on my hook. For round 14, just work 1 single crochet into each stitch. So into the next stitch, I'm going to insert through the stitch on my mug, as well as the corresponding stitch in the hot cocoa piece. Yarn under and draw the loop through. Yarn over, draw it through the 2 loops. Pause here to continue working round 14, and I'll meet you at around the 2/3 mark of this round to stuff the mug together. Before we completely crochet shut the opening, we're going to stuff the mug. To do so, I'm going to fluff up some polyfill, then stuff it into the mug in small layers. Make sure not to overstuff this mug because the sides will start to push out and look a little too puffy. So I'm pretty happy with the amount of stuffing I have in this piece so far. So I'm just going to work until this point here, and then I'll see if I need to stuff my mug a little bit more. So I'm going to continue crocheting through both pieces here. So I'm actually going to pause here and check to see if I need any more stuffing. And I think I do need a little bit more for this spot right here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more stuffing to this piece before completely crocheting the opening shut. So now that I'm happy with the amount of stuffing I have in my piece, I'm just going to shut off this opening. To do so, I'm going to just continue crocheting both pieces together. Pause here to continue working the rest of this round, and I'll meet you at the beginning of round 15. For our final round of the mug, just work one single crochet into each stitch. Pause here to work the rest of this round, and I'll meet you when we're fastening off. With the final round of the mug done, we're going to fasten off by cutting the yarn tail and pulling the hook up. Then I'm going to remove my stitch marker, and then I'm going to work a seamless join in the round so that we eliminate this step right here. Thread your yarn tail onto a darning needle, then locate the second stitch of the round, and insert your needle from the front and out the back, then pull through. And then locate the final stitch of the round and insert your needle through the center of the stitch and out the back. Pull through. Then just weave the tail into the inside of the mug. And finally, trim off the tail as close to the mug as possible. For the trim of the mug, start with a slip knot on your hook. The way I like to make my slip knot is very similar to how I make my magic circle. So I start off the same way by holding the yarn tail with my left thumb, then wrapping the working end around my two fingers to form an X in the front. Then I'm going to flip my fingers over. I'm going to insert my hook under the right strand and over the left. And then I'm just going to pull it through. And then remove my fingers. And I'm going to pull my hook up to tighten that knot. And finally, I'm going to pull on the working end of the yarn to tighten the knot around my hook. With my slip knot on my hook, I can start working on my trim. To do so, I'm just going to start in any stitch around the edge. I'm going to work into the false stitch that I created with the seamless join in the round, just so that I can keep all the seams in the back. For the trim, we're going to single crochet into each stitch, making sure to only go through the front loops of each round. So previously we worked into the back loops of the round, which meant we inserted our hook through the center and out the back. In this case, we're going to work the front loop only, so we're inserting our hook through the front of the stitch and out the center. Make sure that you're only working into this front loop that is closer to us. So I'm inserting my hook into the front loop only of the false stitch created by the seamless join in the round. So note that I'm inserting my hook from the front and out the center. Then I'm just going to yarn under and draw a loop up, yarn over, and draw through the 2 loops to pick up a single crochet in that first stitch. And then into the second stitch here, I'm just going to do the same thing, insert my hook through the front and out the center, then pick up my single crochet as usual. Now just continue working into the front loops only of each stitch, working 1 single crochet into each front loop. Pause here to continue working the trim. I'll meet you at around here to show you how to sandwich in this tail from the slip knot, just so that we don't have to sew it in. So I have about 5 stitches left of the mug, and I'm going to sandwich the tail from the slip knot into the backs of the final 5 stitches. To do so, all you have to do is lay the yarn tail over the working end as well as over the stitches that you're working into. So into the next stitch, I'm going to insert my hook into the front loop only, and I'm going to make sure that the yarn tail is going over my hook. I'm going to draw a loop up, making sure that the yarn tail is laying over the working end. Then I'm going to yarn over and draw it through the 2 loops on my hook. So as you can see, this yarn tail is secured into the back of this stitch. So once again, I'm going to insert into the front loop only. Then I'm just going to work my single crochet as usual. And you'll see that when I yarn over, it's going to sandwich that tail in to that second stitch there. So just continue sandwiching the tail into the backs of the final stitches. And when you get to the end of the round, you might notice that the gap here is a little bit wide. So what you can do is pull on the yarn tail here, just to tighten up the space between the first stitch and the final stitch. Cut the working end of the yarn, then pull your hook up to fasten off. Then work a seamless join in the round, so that's 1, 2. And back into the center of the final stitch and out the back. Weave the tail in. Then finally trim off the excess yarn tails. To make the handle of the mug, start with a slip knot on your hook. Then I'm going to chain 10. So I'm going to yarn over and draw it through the loop on my hook for 1 chain. And again, 2, yarn over, draw through, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, and 10. For the handle, I'm going to be crocheting into the chain. I personally like to work into the back bumps of the chain instead of the front. So what you see here with the V's is the front of the chain, and I'm just going to flip it over to expose these bumps here. Each bump corresponds to the chain in front. So that's the first chain from the hook. This is the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and so on. So for my first stitch, I'm going to work into the second chain from the hook. So I'm skipping that first bump and I'm going to work into the second bump instead. I'm inserting my hook underneath this bump right here. Then I'm just going to work one single crochet. Then into the next bump, I'm going to work another single crochet. Into that third bump there, I'm going to work an increase. So insert underneath the bump. So that's our first stitch for our increase. Then back into the same bump, second stitch for our increase. And then for the next 3 bumps, we're just going to work one single crochet into each bump. So 1, 2, 3. So that's 1. 2, and 3. Then into the next bump, we're going to work another increase. So, first stitch of our increase, back into the same bump, our second stitch of the increase. Then into the final 2 bumps, we're just going to work one single crochet into each. So that's 1 and 2. With my handle done, I'm going to leave a long tail for sewing. So I'm doing that by cutting my working end, making sure to leave around 8 to 9 inches. Then I'm pulling my hook up to fasten off. When working with thicker yarn, I like to split the fiber of the yarn into 2 bundles to make the sewing a little bit less bulky. Some yarns don't like to be split, but cotton yarns split very easily. So I'm just unraveling the yarn and I'm going to split it into 2 equal bundles here. Here's what it should look like. We'll be using these 2 strands to sew the handle to the mug. And we're going to keep this tail from the slip knot as is, and we're going to just sew it into the mug to hide it later on. Pin the handle to the side of the mug to position it. Before I do that, however, I'm going to determine where the front of my mug is. I'm going to keep this part to the back because it's not the most even looking. And I think this part here is the cleanest looking. So I'm going to mark it with a pin to indicate that this is the front of my mug. To determine the position of the handle, I'm going to look at the mug from the top down. This is the front and I want the handle to be on this side. So I'm going to eyeball the position of the handle and pin it down. Then I'm going to adjust the handles until I'm happy with the positioning of the mug. This part usually takes me the longest because I will keep adjusting back and forth until I'm happy with the positioning. Now that the handle is roughly where I want it to be, I'm going to start sewing it in. I'm going to thread the yarn tail from the slip knot onto my darning needle first, then I'm going to poke it into the mug, right under where the base of the tail is coming from. Then I'm going to pass the needle out the back of the mug and pull through. This helps to secure this end a little bit. Then I'm just going to cut the yarn tail as close to the mug as possible and squish the mug to hide the tail. Because I secured the tail from the slip knot into the mug, I can actually remove the pin from this part. I'm then taking one of the bundles and I'm threading it onto my darning needle. I'm just inserting my needle into the mug right below where the base of the sewing tail is, and I'm passing it under one stitch right beneath this section of the handle. Then I'm inserting the needle through the base of the handle and I'm pulling through. And I'm going to repeat what I just did to secure the base of this part of the handle onto the mug. Now that the bottom of the handle is fully secure, I'm going to insert my needle into the mug and out the back, then pull through. I'm then going to cut the yarn tail as close to the mug as possible, then squish to hide the tail. Next, I'm going to sew the top of the handle to the mug. And if you need to readjust the positioning of the handle, you can do so now. But mine looks pretty good, so I'm not going to move it. I'm removing the pin from the front because I don't need it anymore. I'm threading the remaining yarn tail onto my darning needle. Then I'm inserting it into the mug right below the base of the tail, and I'm going to pass it through the mug and have it come out right beside the handle over here. Then I'm just going to sew this side of the handle onto the mug the exact same way I did for the bottom side. And finally, I'm going to decorate my mug. For this piece, I cut out a tree from white felt and I'm gluing it onto the front of the mug with some tacky glue. When working with felt, make sure you're using sharp scissors. And when you're gluing felt onto your amigurumi, do not push down on the felt too much, otherwise the glue will seep through. And make sure to allow your glue to fully dry before continuing to decorate the rest of the mug. I'm also sewing some beads onto my mug. To help visualize your design, you can pin the beads onto the mug before sewing them in place. When doing more delicate embroidery designs, you can split the 6-strand floss into smaller bundles. So for this snowflake, I split the 6-strand floss and I'm only using 2 strands. Also, if you do not have any embroidery floss on hand, you can always just use yarn to embroider a simple design onto the front of your mug. To turn your mug into an ornament, just thread a piece of ribbon or yarn through the top, then tie a knot to create a loop. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you found this helpful and I hope you enjoyed making this ornament with me. If you create anything from my videos, I would love to see it, so please tag me on Instagram. If you like this video, you might like a few of my other videos. So please consider subscribing to my channel, and thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.